Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Bryan Leonard. All right, guys, we have another question from Twitter. This one comes from Over Under Girl. She asked, with MLB heading into the playoff run and trading teams have inflated lines versus teams bringing up guys out of the AAA, players making MLB debuts, there's like no comments on this, so I have to I'm like, where are the comments? Where's the value, and what are you guys looking for right now?
Well, for me, and I'm sure Bryan will agree, at this time of the year, you always got to look at lineups, but you got to look at lineups even more at this time of the year when they're bringing up players. You've got to look at the teams that aren't in the race. They're going to play more of the young players, but I have found in the past, if they are going to put their best lineup on the field, if they're playing a division rival that is in a must-win situation, not must-win, but are in the playoff chase, they're going to want to try to play spoiler. You're going to get big prices if you're looking for dogs. And the dogs that I like to look at is the first-time pitchers that they call up late in the season, because these are
Nobody's
guys.
Seen them.
Nobody's seen them. These are guys that have promise, and they want to make some roster decisions for next year. And these kids are auditioning to make the full squad next year. So I like to take those guys. And where you might want to look at it, especially this year with the bullpens, I'm going to play more first 5 innings when I take the guys that are just coming up, because generally that's all you're going to see them. They're going to get them 2 times through the rotation and get them out of there before they get into any more trouble. And that's your best move for me, looking for live dogs.
Bryan, is there any point in time right now heading into the playoffs where you're wanting to lay these big numbers with some of these teams? I mean, I really feel like from a value standpoint, there is none. Sure, the Yankees go on a hot run. Sure, the Nationals have looked great and they've addressed some of their bullpen issues, but I'm not laying 3-1 here.
I don't have any problem for my own betting laying it. You just can't sell picks doing it. After the All-Star break, I like to bet on favorites. Once the All-Star break happens, you've got the teams that say, okay, now that's over. We've got something to play for. This is our goal. You have other teams that are just trying to play out the season. Right now, there are 2 teams I'm concentrating on. Number 1, the Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
This was a team last year, obviously the World Series champions. Everybody's been waiting for the Red Sox to turn it on all season long. They played the Yankees last week. The Yankees just kicked their ass. I mean, that really took the air out of Boston.
Did they sweep them? I think I saw a tweet about that.
And right now, you're still paying for Boston's team from the last couple of years. You're still $2 or $3 favorites in all these games. And if you're a player on that team, and you're so far out of the playoffs right now that you're thinking, well, what's my reasoning to come to the games? What's my reasoning to play these games? Are we playing out the season? So they're in a disappointed mood. On the other hand, you have the Toronto Blue Jays, which is a stacked minor league system, and now they're bringing those guys up one by one. And Bichette just has come up in the last week or so. He's been terrific. And these guys all played together in the minor leagues. Now they're finally getting that chance to play. Toronto's been one of those teams that if you've been betting on Toronto, you're making some money. And as for teams that are on a run, who wants to bet against the Mets right now?
No, you don't want to bet against it. That's baseball. It's very streaky.
Yeah, it's very streaky. And once they made that move to bring the Toronto pitcher over there, can't think of his name offhand. But anyway.
That they traded away or brought him?
They traded away.
Marcus Stroman.
Marcus Stroman, yes. So they bring him in, and we're all looking at him. What are they thinking? The Mets are out of the playoffs. It regenerized and invigorated the rest of this team, thinking, number 1, we brought in a guy, they went out and bought somebody. But number 2, we didn't trade the 2 or 3 guys that we were supposed to trade, because they had 2 starters and their closer were supposed to be gone. So now they're invigorated, and hey, management thinks well on us. They think we can win. Let's go out there and prove them right. And the Mets have been red hot.
You'll find teams, in a few years ago, well, going back several years ago, the Pirates did it. They had a good second half of the season, and it was the next year. They took that momentum. The next year, they carried it in, and that's when they broke that drought of how long it had been since they had been to the playoffs. So you see a team that gets hot at the end of the season, ride them. They're playing with the emotion, like Bryan says. And talking about the big favorites, Kelly, if you are going to take a big favorite, for me, I will lay the run line on a road team with no problem, because you are going to get your 9 at-bats. And if I got, what I look for is if I got a superior pitcher and a good bullpen, because there's not many of those in baseball this year to find. But if you got a team that's going to score, that's scoring runs, I don't have a problem laying a run and a half. Now, when, a team like, the Dodgers for a while were only scoring 3 runs, if you watch their tendencies, what are they doing over the last 10 days? If they're not scoring runs, don't be laying runs with them. But if they're a team that's scoring runs every night, like the Minnesota Twins, they're hitting the lights out of the baseball. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Laying the run line reminds me of basketball or football when you either lay the points or you play the money line. The problem is when you lay the points, you're laying the 1.5 if you got the better team there. Their goal in that game is to win by 1 run or more. So a lot of times, and you mentioned the road team, a lot of times they'll give up that nothing run in the bottom of the 9th inning. There'll be a run around second. Who cares about him? We'll let him score. We just can't let the next guy get on. And that's my only concern about playing a run line. So positive and negatives for those.
All right, great stuff, guys. $9 Monday at WagerTalk, and all daily packages for Monday's action, just $9. That includes any 5% best bets, normally priced at $30.